So, part of the reason I'm so honored and so privileged to have this YouTube thing as my full-time source of income is it because it allows me to just be unapologetically biased and allows me to do whatever it is the heck I want to do because it's my show and I can talk about what I want to talk about. I will favor conversations that revolve around teams that I like. And that includes Montreal, that includes Detroit. So, when an article like this gets published, it's put onto The Athletic, and it revolves around one of the bigger ideas that we typically see in the hockey world when it goes over these names in such a way that could, I say could, might not actually, but depends on who you ask, it could put a lot of Canadiens fans down, but also boost the morals of many Detroit Red Wings fans. I gotta go out there and talk about it, because today, what we are doing is we're heading over onto The Athletic and taking a look at Corey Pronman's 2023 NHL Re-Draft, baby. Hell yeah! I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, it's October 2024. Why the hell is Pronman making a redraft of all things 1 year after the draft? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's not beneficial to anybody to try to project the draft when most of the guys from that 2023 draft haven't even played a single NHL game yet. So, what gives here, Corey? And I'll say, what gives here is that Corey Pronman is a writer that's got a lot of time to talk about prospects. That's his job, after all. And just like me, he has the ability to make content about whatever it is he's biased towards. And prospects is that. Also, it's really nice to get the engagement going by doing a redraft, because now fans of teams that took players early on in the draft have the right to boast. So without further ado, we're not going to screenshot the article itself. What I wanted to do instead was just screenshot the list, because there is like an analysis done on most of these guys and there's written out paragraphs as to what's going on, but I wanted to focus on 3 guys taken in the first round by Detroit and Montreal, because they do kind of stir the pot when you acknowledge where Corey Pronman has them in his ranking here, his 2023 redraft, 1 year and a few months after the fact. Now, spoiler alert, Connor Bedard is still number 1. The rest of the top 3, you've got Fantilli and Carlson in there, not surprising. Matvei Michkov got a little bit of a bump, which was always going to happen. That's understandable too. But if you go over to the 6th overall spot, this is where Corey Pronman projects Detroit Red Wings center Nate Danielson as a potential top-of-the-lineup player. The initial draft position for Danielson was 9th overall, and here he is getting boosted up all the way to number 6. Meanwhile, if you go over to Tier 5, bubble top and middle lineup players, you'll see that Detroit's Axel Sandin Pellikka is listed at number 11. His original draft position was 17, but Pronman's ranking him higher. Furthermore, we talked about 2 Detroit guys, let's talk about the 1 Montreal guy. If you stay in the Tier 5 bubble top and middle lineup column, you will scroll down to pick number 15, where Corey Pronman redrafts David Reinbacher out of the Montreal Canadiens. He was originally drafted 5th. And interestingly enough, in the real NHL draft, Reinbacher was the first D-man taken off the board. It went Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli, Will Smith, and then David Reinbacher. But in the redraft here, Corey Pronman actually has Reinbacher as, the 3rd defenseman taken off the board. He's got Dmitry Simashev of Arizona and Utah, and Axel Sandin Pellikka higher. There are some other names that you could toss out there, and you can read more about what it is that Pronman is thinking about if you have The Athletic and you click on the article, but essentially I wanted to dive into these 3 names being ranked significantly higher in some cases and significantly lower in others in this 2023 redraft. Starting out with Nate Danielson, who got a pretty big boost from 9th overall to 6th overall in the redraft. We've been making our videos about Nate Danielson the entire offseason, throughout the preseason too. He's a guy that's shown a lot of growth over the past few years, and honestly, I don't even think the picture on Elite Prospects is correct. Is that actually him? I don't think so, is it? Anyways, Nate Danielson, 20 years old, now in the AHL. He's got 0 points in 2 Grand Rapids Griffins games so far, which is not great, but still we acknowledge that there was a lot of work that he needed to put into before becoming a full-time professional hockey player. He was great in the preseason for what he was. A guy just barely transitioning over from the WHL, who produced a ton in that league and who showed off some good versatility. He had some drive and he had some playmaking ability in the preseason games, but of course, everybody recognizes that he was not supposed to play with the Detroit Red Wings in 2024-2025, or at least at the beginning of the year. Let him get his footing in the AHL, just get up to speed with more physical and more, in a way, reckless kind of hockey, developmental hockey, you could say, whilst being able to grow his skills, and he'll be okay. A lot of Wings fans are super excited for Danielson. If he follows the same Marco Kasper path, then that's great. He was actually seen as a little bit of a reach when he was taken 9th overall back in 2023, considering the fact that some outlets had him in the 20s. But Stevie Y took him 9th, and now he's being re-ranked by Corey Pronman in the 6th overall spot. That's awesome. And if you go over to the other Detroit pick, Axel Sandin Pellikka being re-ranked at number 11, hey, look, I'm going to say this here, that's not all too surprising when you consider that Axel Sandin Pellikka was already seen by many people as somewhat of a, I don't want to say a steal, but he was kind of a steal when he was taken in the 17th overall spot because he was ranked to go a lot higher by most outlets. Some even had him in the top 10 after all. So ASP being re-ranked a lot higher than his actual rank, yeah, not surprising. He's on the cusp of breaking some Swedish records for junior defensemen and goal scoring too. He is pretty much on pace to doing that at the time of recording this audio. But I wanted to talk about Reinbacher because he's also listed here on this list at a much lower rate. He's ranked 10 spots lower than where he was actually taken in the 2023 draft, and it is written about in the article here that Corey Pronman was a Reinbacher fan, and there still is a lot of potential here, but when it comes to the way he was able to bounce back after he got drafted, his EHC Clotten year was so bad, and it really hurt a lot of the projection in regards to this kind of redraft conversation, because you want to build off of what you're seeing, right? If guys in the other prospect pools and other systems are just playing better, they're exhibiting better growth, then you have no choice but to rank them higher. For Reinbacher, Pronman is very adamant in saying that there still is a good profile here, and he still has the chance to become good. It's just, he doesn't really have that same growth from draft year to draft plus 1 year like some other prospects have had because of his EHC Clotten year being so terrible. And now it's not like he can go out there and make himself any better. He's going to be out for half the year. So for David Reinbacher, it's kind of worst case scenario over here, but we gotta remember this is just a redraft of a draft that happened literally a year ago. Normally redrafts are done in proper faith. Let's say 10 years down the line, even like 5. 5 to 10 is like a good sweet spot because you can have a nice round number for your article. 5 is not an even number, but you get what I mean, right? It's kind of too soon to do a redraft 2-3 years out. Heck, 1 year out is extreme in this example, but it is being done anyway, and I wanted to highlight it in this video, how the Red Wings are making out like bandits by having 2 steals considering their real-life draft position and where Pronman is ranking them now, and how David Reinbacher is looking like a lot lower of a pick compared to what he was on draft day in 2023. Who knows? Maybe next year, Corey Pronman does another ranking of the 2023 prospects and everything changes. Maybe Danielson is down there at number 15. Maybe David Reinbacher is up there at number 2. It's very unlikely that that happens. I'm just using a really unrealistic example to make a point here, but these prospects can grow. They can do some really good things over the next year that will change Corey Pronman's opinion on the 2023 redraft that comes out next year or in 2 years or whatever. So obviously this is not the be-all and end-all. This is not the determining factor as to where these prospects' careers are going to go. It's just reviewing what they have done from last year to now and how everything stacks up against each other. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a Montreal Canadiens fan, how do you feel about David Reinbacher being re-ranked in the 15th overall spot in the 2023 Corey Pronman redraft? What are your thoughts on him being lower, much lower compared to where he was initially drafted? And if you're a Red Wings fan, what are your thoughts on ASP and Nate Danielson both being given much higher rankings instead? How does this make you feel? Does this make you excited for the future of Detroit Red Wings hockey? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.